أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفلا يتدبرون القرآن أم على قلوب أقفالها صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There's no doubt that the event of Karbala surpasses any other event in a number of areas and for a number of reasons. It was hands down the most comprehensive event that took place throughout the history of humankind, both in breadth and in depth, according to Muslim and non-Muslim, Eastern and Western academics and scholars. The event of Karbala was indeed the most holistic event that ever took place. Now, when you say something is holistic, you're saying that it's a complete thing. When you say this human being is holistic, meaning he doesn't lack anything. He's perfect. However, Karbala was holistic in a nature where not only was it perfect on the good side, it was also perfect on the evil side. It had the most evil and it had the most good. So it was a meeting point of these two worlds and these two, indeed, spectrums, both in breadth and in depth. When you speak about the discussion of breadth, you're speaking about it having everything. Speaking about it having, for example, social dimensions, physical dimensions, spiritual dimensions, economic dimensions, historical dimensions. For example, any dimension that you can think of on a horizontal scale within this world, when it comes to lineage, when it comes to money, anything that you can think of that's on a horizontal spectrum, on an area of breadth, it had everything. Evil reached a peak. Imam Hussain comes to his companions, he says, "You are my best companions." We mentioned in our ziyarah, فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّ أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ. You, O Bani Umayyah, Ya Ala Abi Sufyan, you indeed established the foundation of oppression and injustice. That's what took place in Karbala. Therefore, in breadth, it was incomparable and unprecedented. Also in depth, not only did I have everything horizontally, but I had everything vertically as well, meaning the good that I had on a breadth dimension, it was the best of the best. And the evil that I had was the most evil of the evil. So on a deep level and on a depth dimension, it had everything within it. Everything indeed, not only on a breadth level, but degree-wise. And that's why the question that needs to be asked is, what was the bedrock of such an event and what was its implication? Keep this question in mind tonight, please. What was the bedrock? What do I mean by bedrock? What was the bedrock of this event and what is its implication? You see, because Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam, Karbala started with a thought. That thought then indeed was executed. Then Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam produced thinkers. And that has a direct implication on us tonight. So therefore, we need to see this discussion for a number of reasons. Why? Because honoring Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam is to honor thoughts. Today we're still on the personal dimension. We're still on the personal spectrum. Yes, we spoke of the theological the first few nights. Tonight we're on the last night of the personal before we move on to the global. Tomorrow we start the global dimension towards Hussain today and Hussain alayhi salam and the global influence. Therefore, when you speak on a personal level, a human being is made up of a number of things. One of the most indeed imperative elements of the human being is this mind. And to honor Imam al-Hussain is to honor the mind. It's to be a thinker. It's to be a calculator. It's to be an intellectual. Why? Because Karbala started with a thought. I'll explain what I mean. However, why do we discuss such a question? What is the bedrock of Karbala and what is its implication? Why? Because honoring Karbala is to honor the thoughts. You cannot be a Husaini and not be a thinker. The two cannot be disconnected, okay? You cannot disconnect being a Husaini and being a thinker. Therefore, we have to look at it, however we want to look at it, through the following intrinsic fashion and through the following apparatus. What's the apparatus? The apparatus is as follows. Number one, Hussein had a thought. What does that mean? We'll explain. Number two, he executed the thought. What does that mean? We'll discuss it. Number three, he became a thought. Yes? We'll discuss what that means. And number four, what's the implication on that entire process on our lives and indeed on our contemporary times? Let's see what happens. Number one, Imam Hussein alayhi salam had a thought. This cuts into two different segments. The era of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan and the area of Yazid. Because you notice the effect that transgressed towards Abu Abdullah didn't start with Yazid. No. It was boiling from Adam. Yeah, I don't have time to start from Adam today. So we'll go on with Muawiyah. Yes? Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. Indeed, we are told that he ruled office and indeed he was caliph of Damascus for 42 years. For about 42 years, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan was the caliph and the governor of Damascus. Yes? For 42 years. For indeed 5 years through the caliphate of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and for indeed 17 years for the caliphate of Uthman ibn Affan, third caliph. Therefore, you'll notice that for 5 years he was indeed ruling throughout the caliphate of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Yes. For about 6 years through Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, in other words, for about 20 years, he was the caliphate of the Islamic government. Yes? For about 20 years, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, yes? And throughout the era of Hassan and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, of course, he campaigned against both of them. He was the progenitor of, indeed, yes, 14 Umayyah caliphs, yes, who descended from Marwan and Abu Sufyan, who indeed led the Islamic government for 1,000 months. Bani Umayyah, Islamic government was in their hands for 1,000 months, yes, and it was indeed from 41 AH to about 137 AH, yes. Indeed, the power was within the hands of Bani Umayyah. Muawiyah was the progenitor. So when you speak of Muawiyah, you're speaking of a discussion of this guy being the bedrock of evil. This guy was no simple human being. No, he had roots. Not only did he have roots, his roots were the deepest of roots, and his fruits were the most lethal of fruits. Therefore, when you speak of Muawiyah, indeed, it was written within the pact and within the agreement, the name of Hujr ibn Adi al-Kindi. Hujr was mentioned within the Sulh. However, the first of those, amongst those killed by Muawiyah was Hujr ibn Adi al-Kindi, including 6 other companions, who amongst them was Abdul Rahman, yes, ibn Hanan al-Ghazi. This guy was buried alive by Ziyad ibn Abih in Iraq. Buried alive. Therefore, Muawiyah had deep roots. I gave you his resume. The guy had deep roots, and he started to kill the most loyal, who was Hujr. Hujr was indeed the companion of the Holy Prophet of Islam and a supporter of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, and it was written within the pact, do not go after. One of the first people he would go against was Hujr, yes, including Ghazi and the 6 others who were buried alive by Ziyad ibn Abih in Iraq. Now, Muawiyah, keep in mind that Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam had to face a very despicable disease, okay? Within the era of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, there was a very strong disease that struck the ummah because of Muawiyah, which was what? Which was doubt. You know how stupid the companions of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan were? However, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I'll trade one of Muawiyah's for 10 of mine. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I'll trade 10 of mine for one of Muawiyah's. Why? Because you and I know that loyalty has nothing to do with intelligence. If you're loyal, you're loyal. You don't have to be smart. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen had the believers, he had the smart human beings. However, some of them lacked loyalty. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam had strong believers, but they lacked loyalty. And on the contrary, sometimes the smarter you are, the less loyal you are. And that's why I'll tell you, one of the greatest qualities of the companions of Muawiyah was their stupidity. Why? Because not only were they lacked intelligence, but they were so loyal. Yes, Muawiyah, whatever Muawiyah would say. See, sometimes when you reach the celebrity status, you can do whatever you want. You can start indeed cursing presidents. You can start peeing in buckets. You can shave your head bald. You can, I don't know, eat a bird on stage. You can do a number of things. And everybody is like, wow, that's amazing. What do you mean that he ate a bird? He's cursing. He's urinating in buckets. No. He's so cute. Yes, he's so great. We love him. Muawiyah not only had that celebrity status, he had that God status. Yes, when Rasulullah would say, Ammar sataqtuluhu al-fi'atu al-baghiyah, Ammar bin Yasir will be killed by the corrupt group. Who was on the opposing side? Muawiyah. People come to Muawiyah, that's us. We're fi'atul baghiyah. We're the corrupt group. You tell them, no. Fi'atul baghiyah, yes, it might be in reference to a certain group, but that isn't us. No, we're believers. Somehow, some way, he would find his way through a number of things. The guy prayed on Wednesdays and nobody questioned it. He reached that celebrity status, which is a great status. Therefore, when you speak of Muawiyah, yes, his companions were so stupid. I remember one man who would come back from Kufa after the Battle of Siffin, and he sees a Syrian man. Syrian man comes to him, he tells him, that's my camel. He tells him, no, it's my camel. He tells him, I've never seen you in my life. He says, that's my camel. No, thank you so much. I know it's a great camel, but it's mine. He brings 50 people supporting him, that camel is his. Had nothing to do with the guy. But he brought 50 people proving that camel is his, okay? 50 people to prove that's his camel. Fine. He says, no, that's my camel. Let's go to Muawiyah. They go to Muawiyah, they tell him, Muawiyah, this is my camel, I'm from Kufa. However, this man is claiming it's his. Then how many supporters do you have? 0. How many supporters do you have? 50. Sorry, it has to go to him. He takes the camel. He leaves. He comes back to him, he tells Muawiyah, that was my camel. He says, look, it might have been yours, I don't know, but he had 50 supporters. Here's a sum of money, take it. That she-camel was his. He tells him, thank you for the money. It is said that he gave him a sum of money which was much larger than the price of the she-camel. He told him, however, let me tell you something. This camel was a he-camel, it's not a she-camel. He told him, go and tell Ali ibn Abi Talib that to fight me, I have 100,000 people who can differentiate between a she-camel and a he-camel. The kind of people that Muawiyah had were loyal. However, they were stupid. They lacked intelligence. And for this reason, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam faced a disease. Every Imam faced a specific disease. However, the disease of who? Of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam that he had to face was the disease of doubt. People doubted Imam al-Hasan. How could you make a treaty with Muawiyah? What are you doing? Doubt, marad al-shak, the disease of doubt. How much did they doubt? Do you know? They doubted Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam to such an extent that they started calling him Mudhill al-Mu'mineen, oh, the humiliator of the believers. People which companions of Imam al-Hasan, second Imam, would churn against him. They would tell him, Assalamu alayka ya Mudhill al-Mu'mineen. Not ya Nasir, ya Mudhill, oh, the humiliator of the believers. On another level, while he would be praying, they would strip the prayer mat from beneath his feet. They would stab Imam al-Hasan within his thigh. All of this is Imam al-Hasan. And we've been lost with Imam al-Hussain, and rightfully so. Yet Imam al-Hasan's madlumiyah was second to none, unprecedented, I'll tell you that. Yes, he'll be praying, they stab him within the thigh, they strip the prayer mat from underneath it. Not only that, after his death, he was a victim to so much accusations by historians. Until today, historians tell you that Imam al-Hasan lacked willpower. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam failed, he succumbed to the pressure, he couldn't keep up with his brother Imam al-Hussain. Yes, because of him, Karbala happened. Or for example, he was what? He was even a victim to arrows being showered at his coffin. Yes, while Imam al-Hasan's coffin is being taken, they would shower arrows. Therefore, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam faced doubt. Were to Imam al-Hasan do Karbala, I tell you, it would have been a success. It would have been the success of Imam al-Hussain. Why? Because Imam al-Hussain, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, indeed, he reached a level where society was somewhat prepared. Keep in mind, 12th Imam isn't here for the same reason Imam al-Hasan didn't make a move. Because people weren't ready. We're not ready. He comes right now, people are going to look at him, they tell him, Irja' ya ibn Fatima, go back, O son of Fatima. La hajata lana feek. We have no need for you. Yes. Therefore, you'll notice that this doubt that he faced, if Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam was to do the Karbala that Abu Abdullah did, not only would it be successful, it could have arguably relinquished and, or in other words, extinguished Islam from the face of history. Yes. Come and look at through history. How many people did brave things? They sacrificed themselves. However, it came to no results. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, by personal standards, was an extremely brave human being. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, the bravery of Abdullah ibn Zubayr was second to none. The man, it is said that they would tell him, we're going to kill you. He says, take me, take my comrades, take my family. And truly so they do. Now, Abdullah ibn Zubayr on a personal standard was brave. However, the blood that he shed, what did it come to? What did the blood of Abdullah ibn Zubayr come to? Did it come to an inch of that which Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam achieved? No. Or even, for example, on a second level, Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan, they would tell him, Tanaha an al-hukum. Come down from your power. Withdraw. Leave your power. He would say, I would never take off a garment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dressed me with. This is the words of Uthman. He knew he would be killed. He continued. Then, great. But did his blood achieve anything of that of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam? No, it didn't. Question, why? Because people doubted if these people were doing it for personal reasons or for global reasons. People still had doubt. This is the idea you need to take on board. People still had doubt within their minds as to why they're doing that which they're doing. Imam al-Hasan had to face this. So if Imam al-Hasan was to give himself, it would have been a fail of a sacrifice, just like Abdullah ibn Zubayr and just like Uthman ibn Affan. Imam al-Hasan had to fight. He had to remove the doubts. And that's why I remember one of the attempts of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam to relinquish such doubts was when he was within the mosque in which Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would speak. Yes, it was indeed Muawiyah at this time speaking. Muawiyah goes up on the pulpit of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, the pulpit in which Rasulullah would speak on in his second manifestation, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In his second manifestation, which was Ali ibn Abi Talib, he would speak on the pulpit and he would indeed praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he would admonish the people. Muawiyah goes up on the pulpit. The first thing he does, you know how we start our majalis? And forgive me for saying this. Well, you know how we start our majalis? Sallallahu alayka or Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Muawiyah would start, may Allah curse son of Abu Talib, and he would continue. That was for some say 200 years. That was the sunnah. Who would stop it? Of course, you have, for example, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who would stop such a sunnah. However, irrelevant. You'll notice that Muawiyah would go up on the pulpit and he would curse and he would start. He would tell them, I am your caliph and you are going against me. I am telling you that which is right that you should do and you're going out against me. How could you do such a thing? Yes, he would speak and humiliate Al-Muhammad and people were silent. Yes, you know when you're speaking, when you're sitting before a dictator, you can't look at the man, let alone speak to him. Therefore, who would rise at that moment other than Imam al-Hasan? Imam al-Hasan stands up after the sermon of Muawiyah. He looks at him. What is he going to say? What is he going to tell him? Such humiliation, such ridicule towards Al-Muhammad. It's difficult to even speak at that point. Yeah? Difficult. So what does he do? He goes up. Muawiyah finishes. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam stands up. He tells him, Ya Muawiyah, Ana al-Hasan wa anta Muawiyah. Anta ibn Abi Sufyan wa ana ibn Ali. أنت حفيد حرب وأنا حفيد محمد. He tells him أنت ابن هند وأنا ابن فاطمة. أنت ابن فليتة وأنا حفيد خديجة. You know what he tells him? He tells him, Muawiyah, you look quite confident today. What happened? You had a few Red Bulls? He tells him, you've been so confident. What's going on? Have you forgotten who you are? It's because sometimes Bani Umayyah forget who they are. On the 10th of Muharram, Imam al-Hussain comes to Shimr. He tells him, Ya ibn Ra'iyatil Ma'za. He tells him, oh, the son of the shepherd. Yes. Because you know how Shimr was born? His mother's walking in the desert. She gets thirsty. She's thirsty for water. She sees someone who's passing out water. Can I have water? No, no, no. You have to do that. You have to do an indecent act with me first. She does an indecent act with him. Shimr is born. That's how Shimr was born. Sometimes these people forget who they were. So Imam al-Hasan puts him in his place, not by telling him how he's wrong. He just tells him, did you forget your lineage and my lineage? He tells him, Ya Muawiyah, Ana al-Hasan wa anta Muawiyah. Anta ibn Abi Sufyan wa ana ibn Ali. Anta hafidu Harbin wa ana hafidu Muhammad. أنت ابن هند وأنا ابن فاطمة أنت حفيد ياس فليت وأنا حفيد خديجة. He tells him, oh Muawiyah, you are Muawiyah and I am Hassan. You are the son of Abu Sufyan, I'm the son of Ali. He tells him, you are the grandson of Harb, I'm the grandson of Muhammad. He tells him, you're the son of Hind, I'm the son of Fatima. He tells him, you are the grandson of Fulayta, I'm the grandson of Khadija. Did you forget who you are? Wow. You know what he says? He has nothing to say. He says, may Allah curse those who have become the heads of hypocrisy and who have become the vanguards of transgression. He tells him this. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam had to fight. He had to remove the doubts within the minds of the people to prepare for Abu Abdullah. Otherwise, his indeed mission, were he to carry one out, a war, yes, it would have been a fail. Just like Uthman ibn Affan, and just like who? And just like Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And that's why you'll notice indeed Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, you'll notice that for 50 years after the martyrdom of the Prophet, 20 years after the martyrdom of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, 10 years after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, in the middle of Rajab 68H, Muawiyah breathes his last breath. Muawiyah dies. Yazid was told by Muawiyah years before Karbala, don't ask allegiance from Hussein ibn Ali. Hussein ibn Ali, stay away from him. Were you to ask allegiance from him, there would be great repercussions which you won't be able to recover from. What does he do? Muawiyah dies right away. He sends a letter to who? To Walid ibn Utbah. Where in Medina? He tells him, Walid, my father Muawiyah has died, and it's time for you now to ask allegiance from Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Abdullah ibn Umar, and Hussein ibn Ali. He tells him, don't let them go away, and don't tell them of the death of my father. Otherwise, they would revolt. It is said that Walid, for personal preferences, he summoned a man by the name of Marwan ibn al-Hakam to do the job. Marwan ibn al-Hakam instantly sends a letter to Hussein ibn Ali, telling him, come to the palace. Abdullah ibn Zubayr comes to the Imam alayhi salam. He tells him, Ya ibn Rasulillah, why do you think they've called us? He tells him, I have a feeling that Muawiyah has died and Yazid wants us to ask for allegiance. Does Imam Hussein go? Yes. He takes with him 19 of his cousins. He takes with him 19 of his cousins just in case there's a fight or a confrontation there. He takes with him 19 of his cousins. He comes where? He comes indeed to the palace of Marwan and Walid. He enters. They come to him. They tell him, oh Hussein, give bay'ah. He said, I know very well that you wouldn't want my bay'ah unless I do it in public. He said, is this the case? He said, yes. He said, fine. At dawn, amongst, indeed before the masses, we'll give our bay'ah and we'll see what happens. What does he do? Instantly, it is said that Walid would tell him, if you let Hussein ibn Ali go, I promise you, you'll never have a chance to get a hold of this guy again. He's going to run away, and the only way that you get him to give bay'ah is by a battle. Let him give bay'ah right now. Otherwise, we'll kill him. Hussein was still standing there, salamullahi alayhi. He tells him, you're threatening me with death? Yes. They rise. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam told the 19 cousins standing behind the door, the minute you hear my voice raised, come into the room. They hear the voices raised, they walk into the room. They see Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and they take him. However, he tells him, yes, give bay'ah to Yazid now, otherwise we will take your life. Imam al-Hussein at that point tells us his thought. Because number one, Hussein had a thought. Yeah? What does he tell him? He tells him, you want me to give bay'ah to Yazid? He He told him, of course, this is Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, never should you call him Amir al-Mu'mineen. Far is Yazid from being the commander of the believers or the commander of the faithful. He would tell him, why don't you give bay'ah to this man? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam would translate his thought into words. He would say, Yazidun fajr, Yazidun sharibun lil-khamr. Yes, indeed, qatilun lil-nafs al-muharrama, fasiqun mu'linun bil-fisq wal-fujuri wa mithli, la yubayi'u mithlah. Listen to the words of Abu Abdullah. He tells him Yazid is a drunkard. Yazid is a man of indecency. One who kills the sacred soul. One who is public in his indecency. And anyone like me doesn't give bay'ah to anyone like him. You know what Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said? He didn't say Hussein doesn't give bay'ah to Yazid. No. He gave a thought. You know what he said? He said anyone like me doesn't give bay'ah to anyone like him. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, in other words, was setting a template. Not Hussein, he could have said, أَنَا لَا أُبَايِعُهُ, I won't give bay'ah. He said, وَمِثْلِي, anyone like me won't give bay'ah to anyone like him. Wow. This is a thought. He's setting a timeless and immortal principle. What's a timeless and immortal principle? See, when you speak of Ahlul Bayt, you say Sahib zaman, master of time. What they do isn't framed by time. No. They say things which penetrate time. They do things which live beyond time. Time submits to Al-Muhammad. Al-Muhammad don't submit to time. Therefore, you'll notice what he would say, Mithli, anyone like me doesn't give bay'ah to anyone like him. You know how difficult it would have been for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam to go to Karbala, how difficult it was for him to go to Karbala. Just think of the odds. Death is against you. Yes. You're outnumbered. No water. Children with you. The odds were completely against him. And that's why at one point, Manaya tasiru ma'ana. He says, we're walking and death is walking with us. Ali Akbar would tell him, Father, yes, aren't we on the truth? He said, yes. He said, then why are we worried if truth is with us and we're with truth? Meaning the odds were completely against them. But Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had a thought. Mithli la yubayi'u mithluh. Anyone like me won't give bay'ah to anyone like him. Therefore the Imam alayhi salam, number one, he had a thought. Then what did he do with this thought? Many people, they have ideas. But I'm telling you, this idea has a shelf time. And if you don't execute the idea, not only will it die, you won't be able to execute it. Therefore, what did the Imam do? He said, there's a thought within my mind. I'm going to execute it instantly. I tell you, take it from me, that if you have an idea, number one, don't doubt the value of your idea. Some people say, yeah, it's a good idea. Brothers and sisters, people who changed the world had simple ideas, but all they did is they followed through with it. I mean, when you look at people like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, many of these people were high school dropouts. Yeah? Many of these people didn't even end up going to school. He said, I'm going to stay in my garage and I'm going to, for example, see what I can come up with. I mean, these kinds of people, brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, they weren't just abnormal people. Imam al-Khomeini had an idea, maybe I can build an Islamic government. Let's try. The guy does it. When you look at Shahid Murtada Mutahari or Shahid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, these men at the end of the day, they weren't just geniuses and that's all it was. Leave it at that. No. They had an idea. They followed through with it. Imam al-Hussein, salawatullahi alayhi, he had an idea. What was the idea? Mithli la yubayi'u mithlu. He instantly executed it. He goes back. Yes. What should I do? Where should I go? Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya comes to him, tells him, oh Imam, your best bet is indeed to go to Mecca. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam heads towards Mecca. Number two, he executed the thought. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam stopped in about 14 places before he reached Karbala. Okay? Before he reached Karbala, there were about 14 stations, 13. The 14th was Karbala. 13 stations which the Imam alayhi salam stopped at before he reached Karbala. Number one, he was in Saffa. When you speak of Saffa, this was indeed في أمة جد رسول الله. Rumma, yes. Or for example, in other places that the Imam alayhi salam would stop at, and for example, an area known as Zurud, Number 4, Zubala. Number 6, for example, he would stop in a area known as Nainawa. Other places that the Imam alayhi salam would stop in were, for example, yes, Qasr Dhat al-Maqatil. In other places that the Imam alayhi salam would stop in, for example, Udhayba, yes, in a number of places that the Imam alayhi salam would stop at. For example, in one of these places was where he met Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, yes? Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, keep in mind, wasn't a follower of Ahl al-Bayt at one point. However, he would come and he would hear Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he would be recruited to him. It was, for example, in a place like Dhat al-Urq, where Muhammad and Aoun were brought by Abdullah ibn Ja'far to join the Imam. It was in one of these stations that you'll find that one of the companions tells the Imam that I see 1,000 men coming with hurr. It is said that at one point the Imam in one of these stations would hide behind a mountain. In another area, they would see those 1,000 men coming and they would need water. 1,000 men with hurr. At one point they hit a level of thirst. You know what the Imam said? Give them water. Wow. Allahu Akbar. Give them water. They end up giving them water. Enemies of Ahl al-Bayt. Imam says, give them water. What? Come again. Give them water? He says, give them water. Why, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen? Give them water. Yes, they might be enemies, but they're still human beings. Allahu Akbar. The mercy of Ahl al-Bayt, the mercy of Al Muhammad. He says, give the companions of Hur water. Wow. They come to that 13th station, Nainawa. Imam al-Hussein stops. He says, what's the name of this land? They tell him, Shata al-Furat. The banks of Furat. No, there must be another name. Ghadariyat. No, there must be another name. Nainawa. There must be another name. Araq. No, there must be another name. They tell him Karbun wa Bala. They tell him Karbala. Imam stops. It is said on 7 horses. The first horse, 7 horses Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam rides. They all stop. He says, this is our location. He comes down from his horse. He tells them, unpack your arms. Come down from your horses. He says, Ha huna tusfaku dima'una. Ha huna tuqtalu nisa. Ha huna tusba nisa'una. Ha huna tudbahu atfaluna. This is where our blood will be shed. This is where our women will be taken as prisoners of war. This is where indeed, yes, our children would be killed. Right here. So on that first level, you see there was a notion of what? A notion of what? He had the thought. Number 2, execution. Number 3, he became a thought. What do I mean he became a thought? When you say Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam became a thought, we're speaking of what are indeed, and sisters, this brain can be looked at as a cognitive organ which allows perception, judgment, and thinking. Yes? It's this physical, this brain within our head. You can take it out, you can look at it, you can study it, you can dissect it, you can analyze it. They tell us that we have about, within the cerebral cortex, we have about 15 to 30, billion, neurons. The synapses and the axon and so on and so forth. 15 to 30 billion of those. 80 billion brain cells. I said, don't go around banging your head telling yourself, I have 80 billion of them. No. But we have 80 billion of these brain cells within this brain. We have about 70,000 thoughts a day. Most of them, as we're told, are negative, unfortunately. But 70,000 thoughts a day. This brain is 70% water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala striking an example between insan and the world. 70%. Furthermore, how many times have you heard people say, I have brain freeze? Brain freeze isn't the scientific term, brothers and sisters. There's a scientific term to brain freeze. If I get it right, it's something like pallottine neurogalagia. Look, I tried to memorize it. It's not happening. At the end of the day, that's a scientific term for brain freeze. Don't go around saying I have brain freeze. Say I have pallottine neurogalagia for a number of reasons. Number 1, you'll look smart. Number 2, for example, it's more accurate. And number 3, freeze, it's not the right term, brain freeze. This brain is indeed not exclusive to us. Yes. You actually have the leech, who has 32 brains. The leech has 32 brains. Or for example, when you talk of sea squirts, these sea squirts, what do? These sea squirts at one point, they're evolving and they transform into a different form of a creature, just like for example the caterpillar into a butterfly, and it absorbs its own brain. It eats its own brain. Or for example, you have this bird known as the nutcracker. This kind of a bird, different. So what's my point? This brain isn't exclusive to us. When you look at the ape, for example, an ape has a brain, dolphins have brains, dogs have brains, mice have brains. You have some, for example, that the mass to body ratio is even greater than the human being. Yes. You look at, for example, the brain of the brain of the, for example, dolphin, or the brain of the mouse, or the brain of the elephant, for example. Yes. You look at the body to brain ratio, even greater than ours. Yes. So it's not exclusive to us. This brain is not exclusive to us. Many other creatures have it. Now, what deciphers and what elevates the human being above others isn't philosophical brain. When you speak of the philosophical brain, you're speaking of that brain which allows you to make decisions, that brain which allows you to have a sense of rationale, that brain which allows you to decipher right from wrong. And how many philosophers have written books about the mind, yes, the mind and brain problem. What's the mind and the brain problem? The mind is this mind something physical? Because when you say brain, yes, it's physical. Yeah, what is this mind? A mind, yes? This is the philosophical brain. This is what Plato, this is what Descartes, this is what Hume, this is what Locke, this is what Chalmers, this is, for example, yes, what many other philosophers have come and written about. The philosophical brain, the power to rationalize, the power to think, the power to decipher right from wrong. However, the animal might have the physical brain. All humans have the philosophical brain, but only the special have the spiritual brain. What do I mean? When you speak of the spiritual brain, the Holy Quran comes in interestingly, speaks of thinking correlated with the heart. Give me your attention, please. When you speak of thinking, the Quran, many times it comes and says, do they not have hearts which they think with? And it's a very interesting discussion. Typically, when you say, I'm thinking, you point to your brain. Quran comes and says, do the أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ هَذَا الْقُرْآن, the verse I began with. أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not think and contemplate upon this Quran? Or are there what? Are there locks on their heart? You tell me, Ya Allah, what's the relationship between my heart and contemplation? No. For example, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. Quran comes and says they have hearts which they perceive not with. So what's this notion of having a heart and perception? No. Islam comes in and says that there is a spiritual heart. They would tell him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, to our sixth Imam alayhi salam, Ya ibn Rasulullah, what is this heart? Or indeed this brain? Yes? They tell him, he would reply, he would say, Al-aqlu ma ubida bihi ar-Rahman wa iktasaba bihi al-jinan. Why is this important? So you know people like Stephen Hawking, people such as, for example, Dawkins and so on and so forth, and Hitchens, these atheists who claim to be intellectuals and claim to be smart, according to Islamic standards, these people not only are smart, they don't have intellect. The aql, beautiful is worshipped with, وَاكْتَسَبَ بِهِ الْجِنَانِ, and Jannah is attained with. They tell him, how about Muawiyah, O Imam Sadiq? He would say, Muawiyah had something called nakra'. Muawiyah had something called mischievousness. Therefore, when you speak of the spiritual brain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heavens, He told this brain to come, it came. He told it to go, it went. He said, Bika uthibu wa bika u'aqib. Through you I reward and through you I punish. So, you see a bunch of interesting things. I don't have a lot of time, guys, to speak about the spiritual brain. We don't have much time. However, you notice that's number one. When you speak of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, yes, he became a thought. Rewind with me a bit to that third point, which was what? Which was indeed Imam Hussain alayhi salam became a thought. What do we mean when we say Imam Hussain became a thought? Number one, he became a thought in the idea that there is a Husaini thought, brothers and sisters, which we cannot disconnect from the event of Karbala. We cannot disconnect the ideology of Imam al-Hussein from Karbala. It's a tragedy. Yes. Hussein alayhi salam is universal. However, the tear is limited. The mission of Imam al-Hussein is universal. However, the strike on the chest is exclusive. The saga of Aba Abdullah is universal. However, the cultural representations of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam are very much cornered and indeed short-sighted within our communities. What makes Hussein universal? Hussein the thought. Connect Hussein to ideology. That's what will be a good repackaging. You see, on the first night, we spoke of can Hussein be repackaged? How will Hussein be repackaged? How will you remanifest the mission of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? Through the thought. There's no other way, I'm telling you. Go left and right, there's no other way. It's the ideology of Karbala which will sell to the Christian. It's the ideology of Imam al-Hussein which will sell to the atheist. Not the emotional, not the physical. The ideology. Hussein the thought, yes? Hussein the thought. Therefore you might come and ask yourself, Hussein the thought, fine. How do I reach that level where I can sell Hussein as a thought? No. You have to liberate your brain. You have to liberate Hussein, yes? And liberating Hussein comes by liberating yourself first. Liberate yourself, you liberate Aba Abdullah. What do I mean? There are, whether they're evil, they had free thought. Their brain wasn't occupied. They say what they think. You see him, he says the most absurd things. You tell him, how do you have the audacity to say such things? Unbelievable. No, they had freedom of thought. Freedom of thought, where does it come from? It comes from purity of thought. It comes from purification of the heart. It comes from not having jealousy. People who aren't able to think freely, at the end of the day, they have traces of egotism in their heart. They have traces of jealousy. They have traces of greed. They have traces of hypocrisy. There's something stopping them. There's a black dot on the heart. Imam Sadiq says, whenever you sin, until another dot and another dot, until the heart becomes completely black. Yes. That's when you can sit on the chest of the grandson of the Prophet and cut his head. You tell him, what? How did you do it? قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. Because the heart can miss Fajr and ace your exam? You think you cannot come to the majlis of Aba Abdullah and ace your exams? You think you can disobey your parents or, for example, take salah lightly? In the narrations, Ahlul Bayt don't say, not of us are those who don't pray. No. Not of us are those who take their prayers lightly. مُسْتَخِفٌ بِصَلَاتِهِ لَيْسَ مِنَّا. Not of us is the one who takes his prayers lightly, takes it for granted, like we spoke of. Yes, takes it that's great. Not the one who doesn't pray. No, the one who prays, but it says, oh, Fajr, that's fine. The alarm rings. Yes, he hates it so hard, like it's the killer of Imam al-Hussein. Yeah, he at one level unplugs it, at another level he takes that alarm clock and he beams it at the wall. This kind of a person, you tell him, what are you doing? What are you revenging from this alarm? Revenge from shaitan by getting up and doing namaz. Yeah. Takes that alarm clock and smashes it and breaks it. You have one person, yes, he feels guilty when he misses salah. Another person feels nothing. There's a third person, he's happy. Yes, I missed Fajr. Why are you happy? There's some people, yes, after he killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, not to compare, but there's one guy, he killed Imam al-Hussein, Umar ibn Sa'ad. Yes. He would go to Yazid after Karbala. He would put his hands out to Yazid. He would tell him the famous lines of poetry saying, إِمْلَأْ رِكَابِي فِضَّةً أَوْ ذَهَبًا فَإِنِّي قَتَلْتُ السَّيِّدُ الْمُهَذَّبًا قَتَلْتُ خَيْرُ النَّاسِ أُمًّا وَأَبًا. He tells him, fill my hands with gold and silver. I killed the respectable Sayyid. Wow. Respectable. It was great. It was bad what I did, but I'm proud of it. قَتَلْتُ خَيْرُ النَّاسِ أُمًّا وَأَبًا. I killed the best of people, father and mother. And that's why you'll notice that what? You'll notice when you speak of freedom of thought, number one. Number two, critical thought. You have to be a critical thinker. You have to question. You have to poke. Number two. Number three, you have to have a goal. Yes. A successful thinker is one who steers everything towards one direction, towards one goal, towards one target. Yeah. He isn't just thinking. He just thinks. No. He's thinking and connecting to 12th Imam. He's thinking and connecting to Allah. There's many thinkers out there in the world, but not all of them have a target. Not all of them have a Kaaba. Not all of them have a Qibla. Not all of them have a direction which they gear their thinking towards. That's why, therefore, you speak of this idea of freedom of thinking, and that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went into indeed the era of Jahiliyyah, what did he do at the end of the day? He brought forward the intellectual and academic revolution. Isn't that the case? When you say Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is a thought. Why? Because he comes from the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet, when he came into, Medina, he came forward with the intellectual revolution. Isn't that right? He came forward with a revolution which was basically, yes, Imam al-Sadiq's was intellectual. Yes, Imam al-Mahdi's will be all over the place. However, you'll see that the Holy Prophet Islam came with one of the most intellectual. In what way is intellectual? Yes, you had people who would, for example, yes, they would value money, camels, and women. Rasulullah changed it to valuing spirituality, morals, and Allah. He completely redefined the terms. You see what he did? He redefined things. That's what the Prophet did. He brought them new definitions to terminologies. Quran came and said, successful are the believers. Who's successful? Who's a failure? Allah says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The believers are successful. Islam came with a redefinition. Islam came with a new Webster's dictionary. It came and gave them completely new terms. Or in other words, completely new definitions and meanings to their terms. He said, keep the shell, keep the frame, keep the terms, but I'm going to give you new meanings. I'm going to give you soul. Your body is good, but I'm going to give you new soul. So that's, for example, in what way? You find, for example, women, when their sons would be killed, they would get so emotional in the time of Jahiliyyah. And they would write line after lines of poetry for indeed their sons. Rasulullah came and told them, you don't need to do this. They stopped writing not even a line of poetry. They would instantly, when their son is killed, they go into sujood. And they say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Yeah? Or for example, you find on that third level, the burying of the infant. Rasulullah stopped that instantly. He would stand up when his daughter would walk in. Therefore, you'll notice what? You'll notice that Hussain alayhi salam, he is a thought. Yes. And that's why when you come to contemporary times, we have to see indeed what this physical brain is, what this philosophical brain is, and what this spiritual brain is, so that I can become a thinker. And I conclude with this. It all boils down to you. This is one of the main themes I need you to take away from the month of Muharram. It all always connects to you. Never see Karbala without saying, what does this have to do with me? This is the correct approach towards history. People who study history just as history, yeah, there's a problem there. Well, I'm going to study it just to study it. It's interesting. I'm going to be a doctor just because I find this stuff interesting. I'm going to be, for example, a lawyer just because it makes good money. No. I'm going to read history because it sounds good. I'm going to cry about Imam al-Hussain. Why? What does that have to do with you? I see Abu al-Fadl. He indeed carried the flag of La ilaha illallah. It fell. He kept on going. I learned from that in my life. Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, hit with arrows, continuing to defend the progeny of Rasulullah. He continued despite the difficulties. Always connect it to yourself. People who are speaking of Karbala on an objective level, and indeed on a, for example, disconnected level, and just giving you dates and numbers and facts and information, I tell them that's entertaining. You've entertained me. Thank you. But the minute I close that video, all of the effect goes away. It fades away. Why? Because you have to connect Karbala to yourself. Don't just come and give me a number of dots and a number of letters and a number of numbers. Connect them for me. That's what a true alim does, at least. I don't know what we have out there. A true alim, at the end of the day, he's connecting the dots for you. Yes? Because all of us have the dots. We all have pieces of information. However, the scholar and the alim and the imam, when the imam comes out, he places his head or his hand on the head of the believers. Why? He's connecting the dots for them. He's intellectually raising them. Yes? And that's why you'll notice, indeed, you have to be a thinker. That's how we honor Abu Abdullah. When I come and I tell you, what's the bedrock of Karbala? Yes, the question that we started with. And what's the implications on today? What does this have to do with you? The bedrock is ideology. He started with a thought. We went through the whole historical process. Did you forget? And then what's the implication? It's that I need to become a thinker. I tell you, brothers and sisters, indeed the school of Ahlul Bayt produced thinkers like none other. Just do a comparison. We have Shaheed al-Sadr, they have Ibn Taymiyyah. Do the comparison. We had somebody like Imam Ruhullah. They have somebody like Qutb. You had Murtada Mutahari on one side. You have some random Joe Schmo on the other side. You have, for example, yes, somebody like Allama al-Taba'i, Shaheed al-Sadr who came with philosophy, Imam al-Khomeini who came with spirituality, Shaheed Murtada Mutahari who came with ideology, Allama, yes, Taba'i who came with Quran, Tafsir al-Mizan, this revolution of a book. The man came in Iran. He saw what is there. He said there's history, there's spirituality, there is indeed philosophy, but there's a lack of Quran. And this is what the true believer does. He doesn't only do what he wants to do. He's always studying the social grounds. What am I going to be? What am I going to do in life? Not only me. It's not all about you. They start with the world, then themselves. Majority, they start with themselves and say, what can I bring to the world? No. Sometimes we need to fix things up. Therefore, you'll notice you had these thinkers. Now, why is the school of Ahlul Bayt? I'm speaking to you serious stuff. We have thinkers which no one compares to. This is a reality. We have thinkers which no one you have in Western schools. They're studying our philosophy of Shaheed al-Sadr. They're studying, for example, our economy of Shaheed al-Sadr, his book Iqtisaduna. They had something which no one had. Why is the school of Ahlul Bayt able to produce thinkers, which we have to take advantage of, and we ourselves be thinkers, which no one else was able to come with? Because we have something special, and that was indeed Karbala. Karbala came indeed and brought theology and brought spirituality and brought physicality and brought economy and mixed it all together. You have many people out there, you read his philosophy, for example, when it comes to Marxism, or for example, yes, communism or socialism. You read their manifestos and you read their scripts and you read their transcripts and you see that indeed there's something there, but it lacks. You see, it's like he's just throwing spaghetti on the wall. You see, there's no direction in his philosophical in his mental process. Then you come to Shaheed al-Sadr. You see, he speaks to you of economy, but he connects it to God. Imam al-Khomeini connecting you, reflecting what Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen said. أَتَحْسَبُ أَنَّكَ جُرْمٌ صَغِيرٌ. Do you think you're this small entity while the world has been manifested within you? Yes. And believe you me, the enemy knows this very well. And that's why they're scared of our small just as they're scared of our big. Yeah? They're scared of our youngsters just as they're scared of our scholars. Why? One day, هذا البيت ديارا. Umar ibn Sa'ad would say, don't keep anyone from this family alive. He's 6-month-old, Umar. Kill them all. Wow. Kill them all. That 5-year-old who was in Saudi memorized the whole Quran. Chapter this, chapter that, verse this. He's spitting verses left and right until they tell him, what do you want as a present? He says, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I want nothing from you except to love my family. Small boy. Also a taba'i. Small child. Age is a number, brothers and sisters. Don't be fooled. And that's why on nights like this, Umar ibn Sa'ad says, he's 6-month-old. He says, don't keep anyone alive. Their small would grow and they would indeed overthrow us. And that's why it's on nights like this that indeed Zainab alayha salam comes to Abu Abdullah. She tells him, Ya ibn Rasulillah, akhi ya Hussain, khud tiflak, take your child. Allahu Akbar. Oh Hussain, he's thirsty. Brothers and sisters, try to cry today. Try to cry. Try to shed your tears. Speaking of the heart and the brain and all of this mumbo jumbo, yeah? Ali Asghar, or for example, the musibah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain, this is what purifies the heart. This is what allows you to be that thinker who's going to one day change the world, yeah? Look at somebody like the tragedy of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, Ali al-Asghar. She comes to him, she tells him, Ya Abu Abdullah, take your child, he's sick. Or in other words, he's thirsty. I feel the dryness of his throat. Take him and go and get some water for him. You know what he does? He goes to the opposition. It is said that he would raise this baby to the sky and he would say, if there's any guilt to the elderly, then what's the guilt of this 6-month-old baby? ما ذنب هذا الطفل الصغير. Allahu Akbar. Call him Ali Asghar, call him Abdullah al-Radhi'. He would indeed raise the baby to the sky and say, what is the guilt of this 6-month-old baby? It is said that the army would split into 2 different sides. Umar ibn Sa'ad would come to a man who was known to spear his arrows on the target. Yes. He would tell him, اقطع نزاع القوم. He would say, cut the dispute of the army. He would tell him, what should I do? He told him, do you see that small, tender, fragile neck within the hands of Imam al-Hussain? I need you to kill it. Allahu Akbar. It is said that when Mukhtar al-Thaqafi captured captured indeed Shimr, he captured someone like Harmala ibn Kahil, the one who ended up killing Ali al-Asghar. He told him, oh Harmala, how many arrows did you throw? It is said that he would tell him something like, I threw 7 but 4 of them landed. He told them, which ones landed? He said, the first arrow that landed went into the tents of Zainab. He told him the second arrow that landed went into Abul Fadl. He told him the third arrow that landed went into the chest of Imam al-Hussain. He told him, how about that 4th arrow? What did you do before I kill you? Tell me, what did you do to this arrow? He told him, I saw a baby within the hands of Imam al-Hussain. He told him, which arrow did you use? He told him, I flipped through my arrows, which one should I use? He said, I saw the 3-pronged arrow in my bag. He said, this arrow, I usually use it to what? To cut the neck of the camel. Allahu Akbar. He says, I took out this 3-pronged arrow. I aimed it at the neck within the hands of Imam al-Hussain and I let it go. He told him, what happened? Who's narrating? Harmala is narrating. He says, I saw the hands of Ali al-Asghar come out of his blanket. I saw him flapping his hands like a butchered bird. Ali al-Asghar looked into the eyes of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam as if he was telling him, Father, I wanted some water and you gave me a 3-pronged arrow in my neck. He takes Ali al-Asghar's blood, he throws it in the sky. Imam al-Sadiq says none of the blood came down. The tragedy isn't here. He goes back into the tents. Yes, he's there with Ali al-Asghar within his laps. Sukaina comes to him from behind him. She tells him, Father, is there any water left which you used to quench Ali al-Asghar? He turns around. He says, Bunayya khudhi akhaki min yadi. He says, my daughter, take your brother from my and that's why it is said the mother of Ali al-Asghar, yes, after the 10th of Moharram finished, she would go out walking into the battlefield. The night is hitting her hard. Yes, the sun is nowhere to be seen. It's all bodies laying on the sands with arrows within them. It is said that there she is, tripping over her own, yes, problems and tripping over the bodies until she comes to a 6-month-old baby. She sees there was an arrow in his neck. She holds the baby closer to her chest. She tells him a few moments ago, my chest was dry. However, now wake up, O Ali, and drink from my chest. It is said that, yes, when Zayn al-Abidin Imam comes back to Karbala on the 40th, he would be burying the bodies alive. He puts, for example, the companions in a hole. He puts the family members in a hole. He puts Imam al-Hussain in a hole. He's about to put Ali al-Asghar in another location. However, he hears a voice coming from the neck of Imam al-Hussain saying, the baby, bury the baby next to me. Allahu Akbar. He says, child upon my chest. And that's why I conclude with this, is that when the 12th Imam comes to Karbala, he opens up the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. He sees there's a 6-month-old baby on his chest. Yes, he takes the baby, he raises him to the sky, saying, Allahumma ma dhanbu hadha al-tifl al-radhi'. This 6 أحب الخلق إليك. Raise your hand. The nights of Shah Qasim, the nights of Abul Fadl coming, the nights of Ali al-Akbar, the indeed the important nights of this holy month coming before us. Raise your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Him by the musibah of Imam al-Hussein to answer our du'as, including yourselves and myself. We have many things that we want in this world. We have many hopes that we hope can be actualized. We have many hajat, we have many problems, we have many sins. Raise your hands as high as you can, and 3 times amma yujib. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب ويكشف السوء. One more time. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. اللهم شافي كل مريض بحق مريض كربلاء زين العابدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين واخذل الكفر والمنافقين. عجل لوليك الفرج. Give victory to the Muslims in Burma. Give victory to the Muslims in Palestine. Give victory to the Muslims of Iraq, to the Muslims of Afghanistan and Pakistan and Saudi. Oppression happening as we speak. Ya Allah, by the most oppressed of human beings, Imam al-Hussein, give them victory and give us strength to indeed do justice to the message of Imam al-Hussein with a Fatiha before a salawat.
Yeah. A very quick announcement. Tonight we have the ziyarat of Hazrat Ali Asghar, Jula of Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salam, right after the Urdu Majlis. And tomorrow night after Urdu Majlis we have the ziyarat of Mehndi and Tabut of Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam. So please join Urdu Majlis as you exit the hall. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain.
मक्के में काबा मेरी जबी का है दिल का काबा करबला में मक्के में काबा मेरी जबी का है दिल का काबा करबला में मक्के में काबा मेरी जबी का है दिल का काबा करबला में मक्के में काबा मेरी जबी का है दिल का काबा करबला में ऐ आब ज़मज़म के पीने वालों है आब ज़मज़म के पीने वालों कोई है प्यासा करबला में मक्के में काबा मेरी जबी का है दिल का काबा करबला में मक्के में काबा मेरी जबी का है दिल का काबा करबला में क्यों है बकिया में ये उदासी रोज़ा मोहम्मद का क्यों है खाली क्यों है बकिया में ये उदासी रोज़ा मोहम्मद का क्यों है खाली بیٹے کو رونے بابا کو لے کر، بیٹے کو رونے بابا کو لے کر، آئی ہے زہرا کربلا میں، مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں۔ بچوں کو مائیں جھولا جھولا کر بتلا رہی ہے لوری سنا کر، بچوں کو مائیں جھولا جھولا کر بتلا رہی ہے لوری سنا کر، 10ویں محرم کو جل گیا تھا، 10ویں محرم کو جل گیا تھا، ننھا سا جھولا کربلا میں، مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں۔ شاید یہاں ہو شاید وہاں ہو، آؤ کدھر میں بابا کہاں ہو، شاید یہاں ہو شاید وہاں ہو، آؤ کدھر میں بابا کہاں ہو، پوچھو خدا سے کتنا چلی ہے، پوچھو خدا سے کتنا چلی ہے، بالی سکینہ کربلا میں، مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں۔ جب میں مدینے سے کربلا کی جانب چلا تو آواز آئی، جب میں مدینے سے کربلا کی جانب چلا تو آواز آئی، پانی پلانا کیونکہ ہے پیاسا، پانی پلانا کیونکہ ہے پیاسا، میرا نواسا کربلا میں، مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں۔ عمار اس غم نے خور لایا جو مصطفیٰ کے کاندھوں پہ بیٹھا، عمار اس غم نے خور لایا جو مصطفیٰ کے کاندھوں پہ بیٹھا، امت نے اس کے لاشے کو ہائے، امت نے اس کے لاشے کو ہائے، گھوڑوں سے روندھا کربلا میں، مکے میں کعبہ میری جبی کا ہے دل کا کعبہ، کربلا میں۔ یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، بر محمد والے محمد صلوات۔
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، يا محمد ابن عبد الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وناخت برحلك الشريف، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصة سيدي ومولاي أبا الفضل العباس قمر بني هاشم، وعلى أختك الحوراء زينب. السلام عليك وعلى أصحابك حبيب ابن مظاهر، زهير بن القين، برير، مسلم بن أوسجة، وعابس بن أبي شبيب الشاكرين. السلام عليكم جميعا يا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات.
صل على محمد.